Hello, this is April Leavitt, and this is my e-portfolio. Just a little about me. My professional goals are to complete my master's degree, which I intend to graduate this May. I want to continue to gain knowledge in the curriculum and instruction coaching so that I can continue to improve in the job that I currently have. I want to guide my staff, the teachers, to continue to create a professional learning community so that we can continue to reflect upon our teaching and improve student learning. I want to continue my education past my master's degree, not necessarily a PhD at this point. That's not what I have my eyes on, but just to continue to stay up on educational concepts so that I can stay in tune with what's going on in education and be able to relay that to teachers and staff. And then I do have a goal that I would like to teach a college course at some point, teach at the college level, which has always been an interest to me. For my personal goals, basically they revolve around my children. I want to continue to make memories with them. My years with them at the house, at my house, for them living here are waning. So that's always on my mind, that I want to continue to cultivate those relationships so that they'll want to come home, or they want to be with me and continue to be together as they move on. And then the next personal goal that I have would be to pay off my student loans, live as debt-free as possible going forward. So next would be my leadership philosophy. As I've gone through this program and looked at looked at various leadership styles and kind of compared them to the principles that I've had and how I might do things differently or do things the same. Really, it boils down to leaders, principals, whoever, they need to be flexible, need to be inclusive, but also need to know when to be in charge and make the decisions for the school that's in the best interest of the students, whether it's a popular decision or not. But leaders also must have goals and a vision and share that with the staff and help them see that vision and those goals to help drive continued improvement towards student learning. Next is my program of study. I guess I have done my program not very quickly. I think typically I've taken a couple of classes each semester. I didn't do any in the winter, that 4-week class. I did do 2 classes in the summer, which was fairly challenging, 2 classes at the same time for 4 weeks. I would say be the most challenging time within this program, was just keeping up with those 2 classes because it was so accelerated. Next is my resume. You can see that I'm fairly involved with the school and with various activities within the school. I facilitate the PLCs within the building. I've led professional development. I'm on various committees and teams, the crisis team, the site council team, building leadership team. I help now with the district and state test coordinator. And I'm now currently on the KSDE Handwriting Standards Committee, which I helped revise the handwriting standards, and then I will be training in various areas of Kansas here shortly. I do art. I'm an artist, and so occasionally I will do customized murals. I haven't done some in a while due to school and so forth, but I have done quite a few murals in the area. I've had some educational training. I've gone to various leadership conferences. I go to the Jim Knight Institute in Lawrence every year. And then I did do the Professional Learning Communities at Work Institute in St. Louis in 2018, which was very interesting and insightful as far as understanding professional learning communities. When I look at activities, For the district activities, this was one of the more difficult ones to find activities for, but I will highlight some of the ones that were most impactful on me. One was the KISA committee. I really wanted to understand what KISA was, what it was about, the requirements, and how at the district level they're going to kind of address those, and then how that trickles down to each school. So I was on the district KISA committee where we looked at the district as a whole. We kind of compared our buildings and looked at those requirements and rated that. And then we took those results and brought them to the school and then made a plan at the school level to meet those requirements. So it was an interesting process that I really enjoyed. The next item I really enjoyed was the science committee. Curriculum and instruction is something that really intrigues me. It's something that I really enjoy. And so being on the district science committee and kind of overseeing that was an enlightening time. I had to help the teachers, guide them towards looking at the standards and creating a curriculum that fits their needs within the classroom, and helping them come together, because we had one teacher from every building come together and create this curriculum per grade level. And it was interesting to navigate because they don't think the same way I do. They don't think the same way each other does. And so I enjoyed being able to facilitate that and watch how they created these great lesson plans to share with the district. The next item I enjoyed was the new teacher training. So I was able to go to all of the new teachers coming to the district and just share with them our policies, our procedures and practices in regard to our ethics and fairness, and how that looks within our building, and kind of communicate that with them and make sure that they knew how those related, and what our vision and mission was for the district, as well as within each school, what those looked like. And it was a fun experience to be able to meet with those new teachers. Next I was going to look at the secondary. And with the secondary, it was a little difficult to be able to meet with the principals and shadow them. But when I was able to do it, it was interesting to compare it to the elementary level, very different. And I enjoyed, I did some walkthroughs, which was fun to see the differences between elementary and the middle school and high school. One of the things I found most interesting was I was able to sit in on a meeting where the teachers, the counselor and principal and instructional coach, high school instructional coach, were all meeting about the changes that were coming for the following year. For the academics, they were going to introduce some AP classes. So they were talking about if they wanted to weight those differently than other classes, and they came to the conclusion that they didn't want to, which was an interesting piece for me, because I've always known the AP classes to be weighted differently, and that process was fascinating to me as I sat and listened to how they kind of came to those conclusions and decided on those things. The next thing I found was interesting with the high school was the budget. Again, different than elementary because of all of the activities that high school has. It's much bigger, much more money to manage in all different areas, while elementary is a little bit simpler. And so he showed me how he organized it, what it looked like, how he kept paper copies of things as well as electronic copies. And it was an overwhelming process that I would need to get help on for sure if I was in that position. I also met with the SRO officer, which again was a difference with elementary. We talked about the difficulties of vaping within the high school, and how they were working with the community to come up with plans because it was so difficult to regulate within the high school. And there's a picture of him showing all of the vapes that had been confiscated so far that year, which were quite a few. Next was elementary. And the elementary was difficult because I'm involved in so many things, and so I really tried to do things that were different than what I was already involved in. And if that wasn't possible, then I kind of went about it at a leadership level versus an instructional coach level, and collaborated with my principal so that she could kind of help me see what it looked like from her eyes, different than a teacher or an instructional coach. One thing I really enjoyed was being able to train and facilitate the introduction to the professional learning communities and helping teachers create some SMART goals for the year and working through that process. And it's obviously a continued process. We're still learning. The next thing I found interesting were the teacher interviews. I was able to sit with my principal and interview some teachers, and then collaborate with her afterwards about her feelings about it and why she asked particular questions versus other questions, and why she shared that school vision and why that was an important aspect of the interview. So I found that an interesting aspect. Another activity I did at the elementary level was help perpetuate learning the standards for the teachers. So I created a standards breakdown chart modeled after Mike Motto's chart to help the teachers really dive into what they mean, what it means to master these standards, and kind of navigate through which ones are the essential and which ones they need to focus on while others not as much. I was able to participate in creating a bus safety drill. We previously didn't have one, and so creating one was an important aspect, and I was able to collaborate with my principal to come up with a plan for evacuation to a bus for the entire school, and then as well as practice that bus drill that we had created. So that was that crisis plan that principals have to do, that I, again, didn't realize how much involvement that was. And I believe, the last thing I found very interesting was the discussion I had with my principal regarding emergency safety intervention. I didn't know all of the ins and outs of everything that she had to document and present to the state. And going through that process with her was enlightening for me, because I know that we do have a self-contained classroom, and they have to have this emergency safety training. They have to be trained and many of the special education teachers have to be trained in this. And so knowing how to do that according to the law and reporting that is an important aspect as a teacher. And having appropriate documentation is important. So she showed me how she saves all of that and reports it to the state throughout the year. And that concludes my kind of the highlights of my e-portfolio. I had a great learning experience, and to see it through the eyes of a principal, which is different than mine. Thank you.